So recently I was talking with some friends about guitar, and we started debating something really interesting, and what we were talking about was what guitar skills can't be taught. So we had a fun talk about that, and that's what we're going to get into today. So welcome to Mr. Elmer's Musical Lab podcast, episode number 9. Let's get into it.
Mr. Elmer's Music Lab.
All right, now I will drop on here. You're going to need to get your laundry done, your dishes done, of course, like every week. But I definitely want you to loop back if any of these things resonate with you or if you disagree. Because my friends and I, we did not agree on everything. And my friends who don't play guitar were throwing in stuff. And it was kind of funny because I don't know what they're talking about. I still love them though. So listen, guitar lessons can teach chords, scales, theory, fretboard knowledge, and technique. But some of the most important musical abilities develop only through experience. So you have to cultivate it through just putting in the reps. I say that all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these invisible skills that turn guitar practice into real music. And I put 6 here. We're going to go over 6 categories. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we started talking about was, and you guys know if you've been on this channel, I'm always preaching rhythm is everything. Rhythm is king, rhythm is queen. So we're talking about rhythmic control. More specifically, touch and feel. So if we get into some points, most players think rhythm guitar is about memorizing strumming patterns, and that's perfectly normal when you're starting. So regardless of where you are in your journey right now, I just want you to think about some of these ideas. But great rhythm playing is really about how your hands interact with time. So let's get into some points that my friends and I were discussing. We're talking about rhythmical mechanics, like the mechanics of being a great rhythm guitar player, or just learning rhythm in general. So we were kind of in sort of agreement, disagreement about whether or not you can teach rhythm. Yeah, we can teach the idea of rhythm, but we're talking more about the touch and feel, the deeper level. So things like, these are things that came up, pick attack. So the intensity of how you pick the strings or strum the strings, it completely changes the groove. And that's really what music is about. It's about the groove, like the feel, the vibe. So I can teach someone pick attack, but I can't really teach you how to develop the touch and feel. That's something that's going to be in your hand. Why do you think some of your favorite players in the world, you can hear 1 or 2 notes and you know who they are? It's because they already have a sonic signature on certain elements that they have in their playing. So pick attack can be one of them. So think of the word intensity. Your intensity totally changes the groove. Now I play with a really heavy-handed pick attack, and I'll get into why in a minute. So accent placement, where certain beats create motion and feel. Where do you put your accents? Where do you emphasize? Maybe you do them on certain beats more so than others. Maybe you mix it up. So again, I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face, but until you actually pick up the instrument and put in some time with it, you're not going to really understand it. You'll understand the concept. Ghost strums, silent strokes that keep rhythm flowing. And this is what I'm always going to say over and over and over, and James Brown said it best. Every instrument is a drum set. It's all about rhythm and percussion. That's it. If you have no rhythm, you have nothing. It doesn't matter what your instrument is. So that kind of ties all this stuff together, right? Your feel and your touch with your rhythmic skills, how you use the percussive elements of your rhythm. Think about when you're not even fretting a string, you're just laying your fingers across the strings and you're hitting them as a percussive vibe. Your touch and feel are really going to define kind of who you sound. So that's what you're kind of trying to cultivate too, is your sound. Subdivision awareness. We talked about yes, we can teach you what quarter notes are and whole notes and half notes. We know what they look like on a musical scale. And even if you don't, but how do you feel 8th notes, 16th notes? How do you internalize the groove of those notes? How do you kind of go in between them with your touch and feel in the instrument, your rhythmic control? Consistent hand motion, right? You've got that pendulum strumming movement, and I think back to the early days, and you guys let me know what you think. When you're just down, 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 up, down, down, up. Remember all that? But then eventually you just forget all about that, and it all turns into your touch and feel. But those are the early stages of developing this. So yeah, that's where we can kind of teach rhythm, but we were talking more about rhythmic control. All right, so your consistent hand motion becomes part of your touch and feel, okay? It's going to sound mechanical in the beginning because that's what it is. It's just putting in the reps. Again, can't teach you to not sound mechanical. You'll just learn it over time by putting in time. So you want to connect rhythm to physical movement. If you've seen any of my videos where I have the guitar in my hands, I'm always kind of grooving because I play mostly without a metronome because I started playing in bands right away. Of course, I play with the metronome in practice, but again, my rhythmic control's pretty good by myself or in a band because it's just what I've cultivated over years of playing. Like, nobody could have taught me that. My teacher could tell me that, and I could understand it, but until I actually put in the time and just cultivate it, I'm not going to fully understand it. So we can kind of end it with this. Two guitar players, think about this, can strum the same exact chord progression and pattern, but one grooves with feel and the other sounds mechanical. It's because their touch and feel just hasn't been cultivated enough. That's it. And I want all of you to know you can easily do this. Just realize it's nothing that anybody can teach you. You're just going to have to put in the time. So like your groove is going to develop through listening, repetition, and time with the instrument. I can't really say it any simpler than that. Capital T-I-M-E, time, okay? So that was our first category we talked about. Okay, the second one, now this one is huge. We started talking about your muting control, how you mute the strings. I think this is one of the most difficult things to master, whether or not we truly master it. We don't really master anything, we just become more advanced at it and we keep cultivating it. We put in the time, but guitar naturally produces noise because multiple strings vibrate together. So like advanced players constantly control which strings ring and which strings stay silent. And for a lot of advanced players, they make it look really easy. And you're like, what is going on here? But I think before I go into some points we brought up, one of the things I can say is that tons of tiny nuances that are happening behind the scenes or under the hood, that's all like what muting is. It's like this perfection. It's like a dance between the left and right hand and knowing how to mute out certain strings. So muting techniques just develop through lots of playing experience. So let's go into some of the ideas we mentioned, like palm muting to shorten sustain. Like when you want to clean up a passage, whether it's a melody or whether it is like a chordal thing, all right? When you're palm muting with your right hand down near the bridge, just picture that in your brain. Hopefully your laundry and dishes are getting done. Like that is a technique. And then dampening strings during chord transitions. And that's really happening between the left and right hand, but it's kind of like a symphonic thing. I don't know how else to describe it. There's like a flow to it. But again, I can't really put into words. I don't even know. You guys drop in the comments. Can you define that? All those little beautiful things that happen underneath that you can't really, I have a hard time explaining. I've tried in a couple of videos and I can't really do it because I get a lot of questions like, well, how are you, and I guess my best answer would be, well, just put in the time. Like dampening strings during chord progressions, like there's just a certain dance that happens with both your hands, right? Like also like ghost strokes for percussive rhythmic texture. You're adding in all these beautiful different like percussive elements. Again, I'm going to keep looping back to the guitar is nothing more than a drum set. It's a percussive instrument, right? Whether you're striking the string and sounding out notes or striking the strings and not sounding out notes, you're producing a percussive sound. That's rhythm, right? So stopping chord bleed between shapes. I mean, that's probably the hardest part, and there's just so many little elements that take place. And we really talked about this one for a long while, and then it just kind of went off the rails. But these are kind of some of the key points. Now, this one is huge, okay? Now, because you guys know, and I'm going to hammer you to the end of the time about triads, I had to kind of adopt my personal philosophy of what I think is the most important element on guitar. And if I think one thing, it's, in my opinion, it's triads. We'll get into more on that later, or if you know, you know. But muting unused bass strings during triad playing, right? So I'll give you an example you can picture in your head. Let's say you're playing a G bar chord. You got that's just a perfect spot. Low E, rooted on the 3rd fret. You're playing all 6 strings. A lot of players are just struggling with that as is, and they don't even realize I don't need to hit out all these strings. As long as I stay percussive and in time, it's a good thing. But there's that beautiful triad on the DGB string set that lays inside that bar chord. Now, I go back and forth between the bar chord and that triad, and when I hit the triad, it's 3 notes. I don't have the EA, I don't have the high E string ringing out. And a lot of people are like, how are you doing that? I'm like, well, my thumb's wrapped over the neck. It's taking care of the E and A strings. And then My finger is probably loose, letting up a little pressure on the high E. And again, I can teach you it in theory, conceptually. I can show it to you. But until you play the guitar for thousands of hours or hundreds of hours, however fast it may happen for you, you're just not going to get it. Okay, so your light bulb moment is gonna happen when you start. Your muting techniques go to the next level, where your muting control starts to move from intermediate to advanced. It's even cool when it goes from beginner to advanced. We could talk about muting for a whole podcast episode, but all you're trying to do is control these sympathetic vibrations across multiple strings, and it just takes time. Okay, so I will tell you this. I've heard a lot of you say, I can't do my thumb over the low E and A strings. How are you doing that? I can't do it. And my answer to you would be yes, you can. What you have to do is you have to think you can, first of all, but then you just have to work on adopting some kind of technique or some kind of thing that's you. Like, you'll adapt, right? There's people that have had fingertips chopped off, fingers, hands mangled, and they've become some amazing players that we've all known and heard of, and they just adapted their technique and made it work. And I know you can do that too. So we'll book in the muting control part we were talking about, and we went on a whole off the rails thing about triads too. But when players begin studying triads, think about it right now. If you're on this channel for a while, you're going to quickly realize muting becomes essential. Like, because you're playing them on different string sets. Like when you're playing on the string set I just said, in between the E, A, and high E. But then what about if you're playing the triad on the GB high E string set? Then you don't want the E, A, D string. There's so many muting techniques you have to figure out. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But definitely drop in the comments if you feel so inclined to do so. Like, how do you feel about muting? I think that's one thing that really shows how advanced a player is, their muting control, their technique. All right, the third thing we talked about, and I've talked about this all the time. This is so important. And if you haven't gotten there yet, it's okay. You will get there. Just be patient. Musical conversation. And what we meant by that was your bedroom muscle versus your band muscle. And I think I had a whole podcast on it. So meaning playing guitar alone is very different from playing with the band. Music becomes a conversation between musicians. So if we talk about the idea of bedroom muscle versus band muscle, bedroom muscle is you're practicing scales, exercises, technique, licks. You're practicing songs by yourself. You can fill up all the space if you want. So you don't have any compromise. There's no restraint, unless you're putting it on yourself, which you should be doing. But your band muscle is you're reacting to other musicians in real time. And what is that? Really what that is that's what improvising is. You're creating music in real time. Now, of course, there have to be tools to create that in real time structure. Like, that's where you take all the things you practice by yourself, scales, exercises, technique, guitar licks, whatever it may be, and then you put it into real time with other musicians. Well, that's musical conversation. Again, I could sit here and tell you all day what it feels like to play in an acoustic duet, and how my mindset changes from when I play in a 3-piece rock band, or even when I played in a 4-piece band, 2 guitars, bass, drums, and we all sang. And then when I went to a 3-piece, losing another guitar player, that was a whole different framework I had to develop, a whole different musical conversation. Now, before I actually did that, you could sit here and tell me, like, let's say you have experience doing that. Many of you do, and many of you don't, and that's okay. You could tell me, oh, it's like this. You're going to need... I'm not going to fully understand what you're talking about until I'm in the moment doing it. This experience and time, okay? So those are really the elements of getting great at anything, right? So here's some examples of musical conversation that we talked about where, and the cool part is a couple of my friends are beginner guitar players, so it was fun for them. It was fun hearing their perspective. But locking rhythm with a drummer's hi-hat, like, when you play with the drummer, you got to find the pulse. You got to find the groove. You got to find that heartbeat. So a lot of times you figure out, like, what are the key parts of a drummer's world that I need to lock into to lock in with my drummer. So the hi-hat, that's usually where they're playing like the 8th notes, or they're playing the 16th notes, or whatever it may be. And then they go to the ride, and then your kick and your snare, like, so it's that's where you're finding your groove, like, or following your bass player's movement. In fact, thinking back now, When I first started learning how to transcribe songs, because I didn't have YouTube and all these resources, I'd rewind records over and over. My teacher taught me, listen to the bass player's line, figure out the movement, and then you'll figure out the chord progression. And that worked wonders. It was amazing. But I'm talking about like in a band situation, when you're playing, listen to your bass player. You got to learn to work as a team. It always has to serve the good of the song. That's kind of my philosophy for life. Good of the project, good of the song. All right, you have to leave space for the vocalist, right? You got to leave space. So that's a huge thing. Or call and response phrasing between instruments. Let's say you do have two guitar players and you're playing off of each other's energy. Well, you have to cultivate that through musical conversation. Again, I think you're seeing what I'm talking about, or you're understanding that you just can't teach this. I can teach the idea of it and I can show you videos of it, but until you're in the moment doing it, you're not going to understand. Now, that's why I'm going to just right now, while I'm thinking of it, I want you, please, I know, don't let your fear of playing with others stop you. I've seen a lot of you guys saying, I'm trying, I'm just not finding the right person, just stick with it. I promise it'll be one of the most amazing things you've ever experienced. And again, the whole reason I play guitar is I wanted to be in a band. I saw a guy in a band, looked like the happiest human I've ever been. I said, Mom, I want to do that. Luckily, I was blessed. My mom's a music teacher, so I had lessons right away. Within a year and a half, I was in a band. I was a maniac. The guitar for me was just a tool to be in a band because I wanted to be a part of that musical conversation. So again, you're supporting the groove rather than dominating it. You can dominate everything when you're by yourself, but I want you guys to feel the experience of this. So start small, find somebody that knows somebody, invite them to your house, wherever you live, go to their place, have a little acoustic jam, go to the library. Libraries have a lot of great, my neighbor, Mike, he's an older guy. He teaches a bunch of older musicians. They're all beginner guitar players, and I think it's really cool he's doing that. So they're all kind of learning musical conversation in a a symphony of guitars, we'll say. So let's just end it with this. Great musicians listen more than they play. And I will say, one thing I learned really quickly coming up through the studio ranks and having as much studio experience as I did, some of the most amazing players, I noticed they were listening more than they were playing, and they were masters at using space because it made when they played, they created sound, it was that much more impactful. All right, number 4. All right, so number 4 we talked about was recovery. Now this one, what we basically mean by this is turning mistakes into music. Your musicality. I say this all the time. Now, I'm going to attempt to create a video that shows you how to turn mistakes into music, how to be musical. We've talked about this before. Some of the greatest records ever made are chock full of mistakes. But if you ask all those artists, would they get rid of those mistakes and redo it? It might bug them, but they're going to say no because it becomes a part of the song. All for the good of the songs. Mistakes happen to every musician, every single musician. The difference between beginners and experienced players is their recovery. There's really one rule I live by, and this is what I'll try and teach in the video. And again, I don't know if I can teach this, and this is the debate we had. It's don't ever stop. Keep that rhythm train going. Keep your strum and ham going, let up, turn it into a drum set, regroup, and recovery. So then we said, well, what are some recovery skills? I want you to think about these. So staying in time after a mistake. Now, obviously, if you do what I said not to do and you stop, that's the only way anybody's going to notice. Even somebody who's 5 years old, if they see you stop playing, they know you've stopped. But if you keep going, you're going to get better with your recovery skills. So staying in time after a mistake, just let up. I'll see if I can teach this. You're going to have to just cultivate it through experience, but jumping back into the chord progression quickly. So like that's part of your recovery process. Like if you get lost, let up, do something percussive, regroup. And this is why you need that real-time experience with other musicians, right? Simplifying parts until you relocate the chords. I mean, my version of simplifying the parts is I just let up and do something percussive and then I get back on track. Again, this comes with experience. Can't really teach you to do it. I can show you ideas for how to do it, but you're going to have to cultivate the recovery process. So you're keeping the groove alive instead of what I said, stopping. You're not stopping. Keep the groove going. Now, listen. I cultivated that really quickly because I played in a power trio for like 8 years. That was bass, drums, and guitar. So there was really no room for any of us to blow it, okay? Like we all had to kind of pick up our reins, and that's where this stuff becomes amazing, where you really learn how to do this. And then again, what it does is it builds your confidence. And I've talked on here a lot, like confidence is everything in music, right? Without confidence, you're going to have a hard time in your bedroom. I want you to feel really good and empowered as a player. I want you to feel really good about your skill sets. We're going to keep having these talks, which are just as important as the actual technical playing part. But every time I make a video with a guitar in my hands and we make charts, or whether we don't make charts, I'm always telling you, I want you to feel confident. I want you to, like feel empowered. So this is why you want to work on some of these, try and cultivate some of these skills. So live music is not about perfection. It is about recovery. And we're just talking about when mistakes happen, but kind of to piggyback off of that, when we go see some of our favorite artists in concert, I think tell me, do you agree with this? The thing I love the most is the spontaneity, their ability to improvise. Yeah, the song structure is still there, but I want to see them weave in and out. I don't want to hear the record on stage like note for note. I want to hear their interpretation. I want to feel their energy, their vibe, their groove. So again, and then trust me, when those guys are making mistakes because of all the hours they've logged on their instrument, they're moving through it. None of us even know, unless they just stop. Oh boy. Unless what happens to my friend's Jane's Addiction, where Perry Farrell attacked Dave Navarro on stage in the middle of his guitar solo. Well, I don't think that's a mistake, but you guys know. Anyways, those were my heroes. Good old Jane's Addiction. Hopefully they get back together one of these days. So listen, mistakes can become musical moments. I think that's kind of how we bookend this little section, is your mistakes can become your musical moments, and sometimes they can be one of your biggest light bulb learning moments. Okay, category number 5, we were talking about taste. And then I was like, well, I can't remember, one of my buddy Eddie said something about taste. And I was like, well, can you elaborate? And we were talking about musical judgment. And then we kind of added on ego control. Okay, I think of life like this. We have to have ego in order to, it's built into our DNA, ego. But you can have healthy ego or unhealthy ego, right? So like healthy ego is someone who constantly asks, what does the music need right now? So they're showing respect to the song, right? Taste means like you're serving the music instead of showing off. And I'll say this every single day. If I can write 20 songs that move someone emotionally, that they love the songs, and they don't have one little guitar solo or one little look at me moment, I don't care. Because that's just where my head's at. So that's kind of where you want to be as a musician. And I've played with plenty of people who were the opposite of that, right? I did have a guy in a band one time who, there was an intro to a song and he wasn't supposed to play. And it was going to be for like 10 seconds. Now I play guitar, he'd play guitar, drums and bass. And this is before I was in my like power trio. And you could tell it was rubbing him the wrong way. Now we were young. So I think if I asked the older version of this guy now, he would probably say, yeah, we'd probably have a laugh about it. When you're young, you're building your confidence. You're trying to find your place in the world. You just don't have much life experience. But elements of musical taste, we decided we're like leaving space instead of filling every moment. Again, if I can think about guys that play like, and like some of the Motown records, like, right, some of the guys that play the static, simplest parts, but man, are they contributing to the groove of the song, right? And I'd almost love to ask you to drop in the comments, would you rather hear a flashy guitar solo, or would you rather hear a beautiful, well-constructed chord progression? Right? So I'm just curious on that. So it kind of ties into this, and we even talked about that. And just so you know, we were all in agreement that we'd rather hear an amazing chord progression than someone, because that's what people remember. But simplifying parts during vocals, right? Making space for either your part or your musician's part. That's why playing with others is so important. So you're supporting the groove rather than overplaying. So you're choosing notes that support the harmony, that support the melody. Now, again, I could probably teach you. So I just did a video the other day with triads. I said, let's target the third in each triad. Let's play off of the third, because a triad's the first, third, and fifth, right? And you can understand that, but your taste and your musical judgment and how you want to serve the song or the musical piece, that's going to drive how it actually comes out. And as I say, how you deliver delicious, tasty cupcakes to the people's ears, right? So that's just part of your musical taste. So you're building energy gradually instead of playing everything immediately, right? It's like kind of like a song. Think of the different parts of a song. You don't slam in with the highest part of the song in the intro, because then where do you go after that? I guess it depends on the artist. All right, resisting the urge to prove technical ability. So this goes back into the ego control, right? Like, I don't know, man. You guys are probably sick of seeing this, but we can revisit it for a second here. Just all the younger guys that are so afraid of not being perfect, but perfect is fake. It does not exist, and then all the Instagram guitar players and, it's just, they're not coming from a place of healthy ego. And it'd be such a breath of fresh air if maybe they could grow up a little bit, come back one day, drop a video, drop a little comment. Hey, you know what? When I was younger, it was all about me, but I've really learned. That would be a beautiful thing. Anyways, I was just kind of spitballing off that little idea. So the way to book in this is a healthy music ego serves the song. An unhealthy ego tries to dominate it, right? So I have one kind of line I use in all of my projects, and I've done a lot of projects, and I got projects I'm working in, and this is on teams or with groups of people. It's all for the good of the art, the project, the song, the artist. It's not about the good of us, right? But if somebody is, so here's my thing. I'm older now. I don't have any time for that BS. If it's about them, they're gone, and I can sniff that out like right away. But usually I don't end up with those people anymore. When you're younger, I think it's a little easier to fall into that trap, but you'll figure it out sooner or later, young grasshopper. All right. Musical instinct is number 6, and then we'll wrap this up. So after years of playing, something shifts from thinking to instinct. I like to think of this as your ability to improvise too. So players stop analyzing shapes and they begin reacting musically. You stop thinking on a deeper level. Now, we have all of our tools all over the neck. This is kind of like our bedroom practice. We're putting in the reps. We're learning our scales. We're learning some theory. We're learning songs. Hopefully you're going deeper and figuring out what made that song, not just learning how to play the song. So your instinct is developing, your musical instinct. Now, again, we're talking about that, and you understand what I'm talking about, but I can't teach you how to develop your musical instinct, which eventually turns into how you sound on your instrument, and that's an amazing thing. That's kind of where we want to go. There's no end game on guitar, but part of the peak of where we want to get, and there's not even a peak, because you're just going to learn forever, is developing your own sound, and that's cultivating it. So, when you start having musical instinct, you start hearing chord changes before they arrive, which is why I'm trying to do these little daily music theory quizzes and ear training quizzes. You start anticipating musical phrases. You start reacting naturally to groove. I'll tell you something really cool that happened for me. I don't even know. I just cultivated it over time, probably from producing music and playing in sessions. I think I heard Michael Jackson with just you guys will probably know more than me how he would compose the whole record in his head. He'd have everything in his head before he even laid it out there. But what happens is as you're playing the guitar, this happens to me a lot during my bedroom practice, I can hear the drum beat and I can hear the bass line, because I've played a lot of bass and on a couple records. I'm not like a bassist, but I can do okay. My mom was a bass player, so mad respect to you guys. Mad respect to the rhythm section. But you cultivate this skill. You can hear the parts in your head. Like, it's kind of like reading music. You're looking ahead, but you're entrenched in where you are. Kind of happens with like music. Like you can start to hear the chord changes, and that's a beautiful thing. So just trust me, keep putting in the time, and that really develops your confidence too. So you're going to start improvising at a higher level without overthinking. And if you can improvise on a pretty high level or keep cultivating your improv skills, you're going to become confident. That's just a part of it. Indirectly, it's just what happens. So you start moving around the fretboard by ear. I will say this I fully believe, no matter what I say in here, if it sounds good, it's good, right? If it sounds good, it's good. That's it. Art's interpretive, it's subjective. So if it sounds good to you, it's good. So you'll start moving around the fretboard by ear, and that's fine. I'm just trying to give you more tools to give you more musical pillars and structure so you can develop this musical instinct. And this was one area where I think my friends and I, we had different perspectives on this, but I think I'm just trying to come to some bullet points on here in our talk that we kind of commonly agreed upon. But so you really want to start to trust your musical intuition. And I think one thing we did say that the progress on this happens faster than anything else is when you're playing music with others, because you have to completely rely on your musical instincts in order to serve the good of the song, so it's all those elements I mentioned earlier that ties into your musical instinct. And that's why we said this should kind of be the last key point that I talk about. So a key insight is when guitar stops feeling like math and starts feeling like language, you're starting to develop your musical instinct. And yes, I'm going to talk theory like over and over on here because I think it's really important. But in the end, music is math, but it's not about math. It's about feelings. It's about art. It's about motion. It's about creating music in real time. You're composing in real time, right? That's what you're doing. So practice cultivating it in your bedroom by yourself too, just improv with yourself. All right. So I'll try and do some more videos on that. All right. This was a long, fun podcast. I thought that was a cool topic though. Let me know what you guys think. Stoked to have you here. Hopefully go check that laundry, go check those dishes. I bet you still have dishes in the sink. I know I have a couple. But even though these skills cannot be taught directly, they absolutely can be developed. So they grow through experience, listening, and I'm going to say this again, playing with other musicians. So if you're not there yet, just keep trying, keep coming back here. Tons of amazing people in this community that are going to encourage you. Maybe some of you guys could get some little collabs going on here, even if they're remote. That would be cool. We should try that. So definitely keep practicing. Do your bedroom muscle, but try and play music with others. Develop that band muscle, that musician playing live with musicians, other musicians muscle. All right, my final message would be this. These invisible skills, these areas we just talked about, these are just a few. This is where real musicianship begins. This is where you cultivate deep musicality, deep groove, deep everything. And I can't really even tell you what it feels like. If you felt it and you're on here, you felt it. But if you haven't yet, or you're starting to get shimmers of that, which I've seen amazing comments, I love that. It's the whole reason I started this channel. So let's keep this thing rolling. All right. Drop jellyfish or your favorite sea creature in the comments. I'll see you in the next podcast. Don't stop because only you can stop you. Peace.